Okay, so earlier this year the new trailer for Resident Evil 8 dropped, and it looked pretty boob. I mean, good. It seems we're playing as Ethan again, and the new castle and village setting looks marvelous. The whole thing was very reminiscent of Resident Evil 4, still waiting for that remake by the way, for which I have a lot of nostalgia for, being the first Resident Evil I ever played, so naturally, I am very hyped for this one. It also got me in the mood to play Resident Evil 7 again, and I forgot just how much I love this game. It may not have Lady Thick Chicks in it, but it's the first game in the franchise to really shake things up in terms of presentation. Most notably, the switch from a third-person perspective to a first-person perspective, giving the player a real sense of anxiety and dread by witnessing the gruesomeness of the game through Ethan's eyes. Also, bringing the survival horror aspect to the forefront was another move the game benefited greatly for. After 4, Resident Evil 5 and 6 focused more on the action and fast pace and explosions, pushing the horror to the side almost as an afterthought. I would say even 4 was starting to lean a little towards that action-packed type game. And even though there are action sequences in 7, it's all in service of the horror experience. This game lives in the memory of my pants. I should say now, this video will contain spoilers for Resident Evil 7, so, if you haven't played the game, this is your warning. Or if you just don't care and just want to be up to date before the new one comes out, then buckle up and enjoy. Here we go. Resident Evil 7 was developed by Capcom and released on January 24, 2017 with generally great reception by the fandom. The story follows Ethan, a man in search of his missing wife who ends up in a mysterious family estate in the southern bayou, and insanity ensues. From the first moment of the game, you can see the amount of detail the developers poured into this game to make it as uncomfortable as possible. The atmosphere is dense from the start, but the story was completely different at first, being more in the like of Resident Evil 6 until John Takushi and Kashi Nakanishi took over the project as executive producer and director. They redirected the course of the game, straying away from the big spectacle of what came before and sticking to a more isolated experience. The huge scale of the previous entries was the cause of the downgrade on the horror side of the franchise. It's harder to get scared when the stakes are too big, and this is no coincidence. They had this very thing in mind throughout the development process and began to employ many changes, such as the setting taking place in this remote spot in the middle of rural nowhere instead of entire countries and cities, the amount of characters it has, just having a handful, while the other games had so many. They even implemented the co-op mode and the switch in perspective, as I said earlier. And with these shifts in tone and direction, they began to shape something really special. After receiving a rather mysterious message from his 3-year-long missing wife, Mia, our main boy Ethan ends up in an abandoned mansion in Louisiana. Now, it's worth noting that this opening level is one of the very few that take place during clear, lovely, warm, fuzzy daytime. Given that most of the game takes place during nighttime, this is employed so that the player can contrast later on with the darkness as you keep pushing forward into the metaphorical and literal shit. As you walk outside the mansion, you see the shadows and glimpses of what awaits for you inside, and once in, you're trapped in. I found funny how Ethan is just cool with it, like, oh boy, I guess I'm trapped in this shithole, whoops. I'd be losing my mind trying to get that door open any way possible. Anyways, you keep snooping around, you quickly realize there is something seriously wrong with this place, and it's not just the 10-inch roaches crawling around. Eventually, you find a VHS tape, remember those? And you play it, giving the player control over whoever is recording the tape. This is another new gameplay mechanic they implemented in this game. There are various VCRs around the house and tapes that you play, and they give you a hint in what to do or where to find what you're looking for in that moment in the game. It's a pretty clever way of reusing the same environments in different ways with different purposes, but that brings questions to my hairy head, like, how did the tapes got there? Why were they just laying around? How am I using two hands if I'm supposed to be holding the camera? Some might argue, well, it might be that they're recording with a GoPro. To what I say, why would these people find these recordings in GoPros and develop them into tapes and leave them around? But whatever, that's just me. I actually enjoy them for what they are. It's also cool to know that a group of devs went out and actually visited haunted houses and recorded footage to have as reference for reactions and just a general feel of how it is to like move around in a house like that. That's commitment to the craft right there. I wouldn't do that. Following this, you find Mia in the basement and she goes crazy, possessed by something or someone, and chases you for a bit. There are also phones around the house, and this chick Zoe is calling and monitoring you during your time in the house. Mia comes back, does a crazy face, and cuts your hand with a chainsaw. Yep, after that you kill her for a while and get bonked in the head by Jack, and we officially meet the family. This is the image most people that have played the game associate with it. Oh, and remember that hand that was cut off? It got stapled back, don't even worry about it. At this family dinner, we get a good close look at the peeps that are going to be messing with you for the next couple hours. And this is a good moment to point out how great the character designs are for each of them. We got Daddy, Jack Baker, Mommy, Marguerite Baker, Son, Lucas Baker, and asshole, Granny Baker. Seriously, Granny's the fucking worst. She appears and disappears out of thin air around every corner and she just stands there. Well, sits. Fucking worst. Following their introduction, they all conveniently leave so you can easily escape. I guess they tied you up with dental floss. Walking around the house, you'll find documents and notes giving you enough information so you can put together a bit of backstory and create context for what's going on. I personally love this as it doesn't spoon feeds you any exposition. It's just if you find it and read it, you get the information. If you don't, then you don't. Also, during this section, Jack is roaming around the house with a shovel, and fun fact time, they actually based this character and how he moves and reacts on Jack Nicholson's performance as Jack Torrance in The Shining. That's why he's also called Jack. So, a Jack based on a Jack playing another Jack. Jackception. Eventually a cop shows up and gives you a pocket knife, which you use to open up the garage door and meet up with him, and he's dead. This leads up to the first boss battle facing Daddy, ending with him grabbing your gun and shooting himself in the mouth. I found this funny because on my first run through the game I ran out of bullets, so when he grabbed the gun and pulled the trigger, I imagined how it would have played out if nothing happened. Like, it'd be pretty awkward. Anyways, as you keep pushing your way through the house solving puzzles, which by the way are not really that hard, mostly just looking for key items and these shadow portrait things that open up secret passages for you. It's nothing too crazy. You get contacted by Zoe once more, and this time she reveals that the lovely people that lives there is her family. After that, you get into another boss fight with Big Daddy. You kill him and get the last piece of the puzzle to leave the mansion. I want to take this time to address the cannon fodder type of enemy you face in this game. Their design is okay. I mean, they are just big faceless black goo monsters, and most of them are just slight variations of the same exact design with very little distinctions in how they attack or how you take them out. Overall, a boring, non-detailed look. They managed to get a couple scares out of me because of their spawn area. Sometimes I found myself dealing with one of them, and when I turn around there was another where there previously wasn't any, making almost no noise to alert me of their presence. I'm sure to get startled by that. Or when I'm walking down a hall, turn the corner and boom, mini heart attack. But on their own, I found them to be sorta plain looking. Once outside, Zoe tells you she's infected like her family, but her mind is still sane, and that a cure serum can be made with components that are where the next boss fight is.
Shit, Negro, that's all you had to say.
This time, it's Marguerite's turn to make your pants heavier for the day. In this section of the game, you get to put together a makeshift flamethrower, which is probably my least favorite weapon in the game, and I know a flamethrower sounds powerful, but the ammo runs out pretty quick, and the damage is a bit lacking in my opinion. Also, Marguerite has control over insects now, which is, I don't know how the infection gives her power over them. If you do, please let me know in the comments, but that was always off to me. After you crisp her ass the first time, you need to go back and retrieve her bug-controlling lamp to open the door. When you go back, Marguerite decided she liked insects so much she wanted to become one. I'm not gonna lie, this level design paired with her brand new look and movements of Marguerite, as I call her, really put me on edge, and she took her sweet ass time to die as well. You get the lamp, open the door, and walk into what I say is probably the most unnerving part of the game. It's a nursery room, and the only source of light is coming from your flashlight, which is malfunctioning, leaving you in intervals of absolute darkness. There are also sounds and things moving that shouldn't be, and it's insanely creepy. At one point, the flashlight dies and a little girl whispers in your ear, and if that's not the creepiest fucking thing ever, I don't know what is.
Stay away.
This is much scarier than the monsters in the game because it's much more psychological. You're constantly worrying about the light and what lies a couple feet ahead in the darkness. The way the game plays with lighting, sounds, and visuals all at once during this short level is honestly the best type of scares you can deliver, more than the gore and the cannon fodder blobs of black goo. Once you get what you need for the serum, the phone rings again. This time it's Lucas on the other side telling you that he's the next boss and you gotta fight him. What can I say about this guy? Out of the entire family, he's the craziest and honestly the most entertaining just cause of how wacky he is. You gotta go through a barn to get to him, and this is the only occasion where there's a boss type variation of the black goo monster. He's big, he's fat, and he's dead. I wish they would have at least used more strong variations like this one, but whatever. Once in with Lucas, you gotta solve this puzzle room, which was pretty clever, and after that, Lucas runs away never to be seen again. Which is kinda anticlimactic knowing that this lunatic is still out there after getting blown by all his traps. I kinda wanted to kid his ass a bit. Shortly after, you find Mia and Zoe, and she manages to make a serum, but good old daddy comes back, bigger, badder, and goofier than ever.
Zoe! Get your ass back to the house! I will deal with you later!
After defeating daddy, you need to use one of the serums on him, leaving only one for your hose. You gotta choose between Mia and Zoe, but it doesn't really matter. If you pick Zoe, Mia and Zoe dies. If you pick Mia, only Zoe dies. Also, Mia is a canon choice given that she's going to be in the next game, so just pick Mia. You get in the boat and leave. It seems you're going home, but soon enough, things go to shit again. A force knocks the boat over, takes Ethan away, and now you're Mia walking around a shipwrecked boat that she was a passenger of a while back. As you look for Ethan, you begin to have flashbacks and visions of a little girl called Evelyn.
Wait a minute! Who are you?
She is the cause of all this. She keeps calling you mother, but I'm not her mom. I'm not gonna pay for child support. Forget it. She makes you watch a tape to refresh your memory, and we already went through this. How is this a tape? Why was Mia recording any of this? Anyways, it is revealed that Mia was a secret agent for Tensu Corporation, and the boat was transporting a new mind-controlling bioweapon in the form of Evelyn. A big storm comes in, shipwrecks the boat, allowing Evelyn to run away, infecting Mia in the process. This is how the Bakers find Evelyn, and she drives them insane, infecting and mind-controlling them as well. Except Lucas, because he was immunized. Oh, and the black goo monsters were Evelyn's mind control too. That black goo gives her victims superhuman abilities, explaining the Bakers taking forever to take the L and die. It was all Evelyn, and if this explanation feels fast and crammed, it's because that's how it was. Once you find Ethan, you hand over a vial with Evelyn's genetic tissue, and Mia stays behind to save you. Now, you're taking control of Ethan once more, at which point you find hidden labs inside an abandoned salt mine, and using all spanking brand new equipment that you've never ever seen before, you manage to create a toxin to eliminate Evelyn for good. Shortly after, you get your ass back into the mansion and face Evelyn, who uses the power of the big bad wolf, huffing and puffing and blowing really hard. But Ethan's got the power of being the main boy, so he injects her with the toxin, and we find out that all along, Evelyn was old Granny Baker.
Ruh-roh!
Zoinks!
Jinkies! Jeepers!
I told you she was the fucking worst. But somehow the toxin doesn't kill her, but instead turns her into the biggest, blackest pile of goo in the game so far. However, with the help of the military that arrives unseen with impeccable timing, Granny is whacked, and remember Chris from the other games?
Yeah, I remember that.
Well, he rescues Ethan and him and Mia live happily ever after. Until Chris kills her in the next one.
Sorry, Ethan. Why?
I seriously, I don't know why they put that in the trailer. What's wrong with them? I gotta take a moment to point out and highlight one of the strongest aspects of this game, and that is the sound design. Playing this with a good pair of headsets and really listening to the environment, how they capture each and every minuscule sound, from the steps to the different insects roaming around to the goo sloshing and dripping. You could go through this game with your eyes closed and still be frightened out of your wits. The level of immersion achieved by only the sound is unreal, and it's taken for granted most of the time. But the sound in a game like this makes or breaks the experience, and in this case, it makes it good. Honestly, despite its flaws and all the nitpicks, I really enjoy this game. I love the direction they went with the art style and the story, and I hope they keep this trend of evolving and changing in the survival horror genre like only Resident Evil can. And that is it for today. If you made it this far into the video, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. If you did like or had any type of enjoyment listening to me talking about this game again, I encourage you to like and subscribe for more content like this, and I will see you next time.